Namaste and welcome to another episode of Waking Up with Jessica. We are all about waking up to our higher selves in this show through travel, creativity, and spirituality. If you haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button because that helps the algorithm. I want to introduce my next guest. We met during yoga a couple months ago at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and we just really hit it off. We just really connected. I loved her energy, and she's a wonderful, funny woman, comedic. Please welcome to the show, Joy Wolfe.
Ow, ow, ow. Last name like Wolf, you gotta howl it on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is like so special. I love the friendships you make in a yoga class because it's just instant, and like you don't know each other in mortal years for very long, but you're like soul gaze,
Totally.
Yeah.
And that was how our friendship sort of formed, like right after we just did an hour and a half of yoga, and we somehow just struck up a conversation with one another, and it just flowed, and I'm like, I really like her energy. We were just two peas in a pod, I guess. And then we had our first friendship date trying to find that waterfall. We went chasing waterfalls.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's like our iconic. How it's like there was. How do you beat that? Right, a frozen waterfall. We dipped in. We went underneath the waterfall, which is very painful, by the way.
Yeah,
but so good, so good.
What about when we were trying to find it?
Oh my god, that was unreal, unreal. We're like getting lost on the way, and it's just like we've got so much confidence, so much fire sign energy that just didn't stop us, but. Yeah. Oh, that was great. And the characters at the waterfall were just next level.
Yeah. We were like driving for like over an hour.
I forgot about
and then we get to like the road, and there's like this random dude like blocking it. But he didn't have any like uniform or nothing. And I'm like, oh shoot, is he like gonna rob us? Like I got really scared. So I like backed up, but there was like the only way to go. So I started backing up, and we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. And then he was like, you can't go this way. And we're like, why? And he was like, because there was a landslide.
The biggest red flag about that is it was like 90 degrees and this guy was in a long sleeve shirt. And we were like, who is this psychopath? But that's how you know when you've started a good friendship, when you're just like, okay, we have no idea what's happening. We're just gonna power through. We're gonna get some kava.
Yeah. Afterwards, we like went down the road, and I'm like, hey, are you hungry? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, we're gonna go to Kava, which is like one of my favorite places here, not just in LA. They have them in New York and the East Coast as well. It's Mediterranean bowls, so healthy. You feel I got you hooked, right?
You did. That's the way to Jess's heart, is travel and kava. So if you're trying to slide into these DMs,
coffee too.
Coffee, that is true. That's how we keep bubbly and vivacious.
Exactly. So we had a beautiful day at the waterfall. It's what did you feel when you were there?
Oh, wow, that was so special. Just like
what was the name of the waterfall?
Eaton Falls. Yeah, Eaton Falls. Just like presence, and normally I'm like a beach person too. I don't think I've been to a ton of waterfalls. So just to like, I don't know, we dipped into, and I mean like freezing and like colder than ocean. Like just being present, because I often live like in the past or in the future, especially as a comedian. Always trying to tell jokes, and sometimes repeating traumas and things, and saying the same thing a lot. So just not expecting anything and having a rowdy adventure with a new friend. It's kind of rarer than you'd think in LA too, because you meet a lot of wonderful people, but actually like creating a real friendship with someone is rarer than it should be. What about you? What do you think?
I like friendships that just flow, and I felt like that's how our friendship was. It's just like it was instant, and you were like, hey, do you like want to go to this waterfall? And I always wanted to go, and I'm like, yeah. And we just sort of like did it. And what I liked about that experience was it just really took us out of time.
Ooh, yeah.
We were just not really thinking about the future. We were just in the moment, and it was very just we need to be in nature more, right? We're so connected to our phones and the internet and this, but nature really does heal.
Oof, I got chills when you said that a little bit. Like, it's so easy to not, especially we're so glam and fast-paced in LA, just the lifestyle. And we're surrounded by nature, too, which is really interesting that we are so disconnected from it at the same time. But our whole planet would probably be in a lot better shape if we actually, like, realized we're all the same.
Absolutely.
And we're part of this, like, giant being. Like, we are Earth, you know? And so I think it's really interesting that we're so disconnected from what we are.
Absolutely. People need to just take their shoes off and every now and then and just ground, go to the beach, touch the sand, walk on the grass, walk on the dirt, look at the sun, be reminded who you are and why you're on this planet. Because we're just so caught up, we're like robots.
Yes. And just like that thing you said, just grounding your feet. I swear, and it's funny because everywhere it's Hollywood forever is my personality. But like doing yoga there and outside and in the sun. And it's funny, as a comedian, and my name is Joy, and I struggle with a lot of depression. You know, I was my big joke is I was named Joy by the unhappiest man in the world. But like being in sunshine and a Leo too is something that I find if I don't, like when I'm in my saddest, I'm hiding away in the darkness, you know, and just like reminding like, oh yeah, like we, you know, we're talking about we are earth beings, you know, so we're like plants, right? We need sun, we need water, we need each other.
Absolutely.
You know, especially post-pandemic.
Yeah. If you look at the alcohol rates, so many people since the pandemic have just turned to alcohol. And it's just, it's really sad. It messed so many people up in so many ways. So we just really need to be there for one another.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like some depression. I have heard that a large number of comedics suffer from depression. Have you heard about that?
Oh, I've lived it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know, and I think I believe it's a Robin Williams quote, but I always joke too that people always check on your happy friends, you know, because we're sometimes the ones that are in trouble. But I believe it's I always look to Robin Williams too because he's such a, you know, an example. But it's he said something along the lines of like, people that want to be in comedy or like people that want to make people laugh, we often know like the darkest parts, and we never want anybody to feel as worthless as we do. And a lot of comedians too, we come from really fucked up backgrounds. Some not. It's not a whole generalization, but you know, I think sometimes when you're really funny, and it's a strange thing to kind of be confident about because everyone wants to be super funny. But you know, for me, I think it was a way of truly, it's so cliche, but like getting love, getting approval, de-escalating the situation. Like I had a particularly wild father, you know, and so sometimes, you know, if I could be charming enough, you know, then maybe the alchemy of the situation would change, which is sad if you look at that because it's never a child's fault. But you know, it's humor has been a way to connect with people, but also to kind of like shield from fucked up stuff too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you got to LA and how you moved here to pursue your dreams.
Oh, I love that question. I had it was actually really wild because right now we're in West Hollywood and I grew up literally down the street, which is crazy. Like my family moved here. Well, it's a wild story, and there's always a little sadness tinged in everything. I was actually born in Vegas and lived in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Wow. And like I know, right? So random. Like in a trailer. My mom was a nurse in Vegas, and my dad was kind of a strange character. And I wonder why, like, because she lived in like a trailer with him, and his family had another one. So it's just a very bizarre. I was like, Mom, like, did you not see the red flags in the middle of the desert? And so he wanted to be a filmmaker, and so she was like kind of frightened for her safety with an unstable man in the middle of the desert. So she was like, right? I know. Pause for laugh. And in the 90s too, so she had no resources. It's not like there was cell phones. It's not, you know, and so she's like, let's move to LA to pursue your dreams. And so in a way, and I was like, it's more chills as I say this, like LA saved our lives. Like I don't know if my mom would be here without Los Angeles because isn't that crazy? And I grew up just down the street learning how to read, jumping star to star. And so Hollywood and this pursuit in a way was my religion. And I think what I've realized during my Saturn return, I was like, Ooh, did I become a filmmaker so daddy would love me? Harsh. And then, life, and I could tell you my entire life story or whatever. But like, we ended up moving to Albuquerque when I was very young, and my dad ended up leaving, which was, of course, left quite the wound. But thank God, because it was not, he was not a safe man or healthy. And the older I get, the more compassion I have for him, even though he was, it's like, it's weird when you grow and you're like, oh, that's an abusive person. But seeing it from adult eyes, I'm like, oh, I can see how you got there. And yeah, then I came back at 22 and just like with this dream and trying to
You came back from
Albuquerque and travel myself too. Every time I got the chance to, it's probably why we're such an instant kindred.
You've been to many countries yourself.
Yes.
How many countries have you been to?
I think 22.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's impressive.
Thank you. I was fortunate enough to study abroad in Leeds at 20, and then I had $5,000 from working at Applebee's, and I just went.
Applebee's.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God.
Every crap restaurant that's a little traumatizing I've worked at. Trying not to do that any longer, but I think that's such a bond for us too, because like travels and just like I got to meet a mercenary riding the Serbian night train at 20 years old. Like what, and made one of the best friends of my life because we flew on Air Ukraine in 2015 when
wow.
I know planes were being bombed out of the sky.
Oh my God.
It was only $100 though for the ticket, Jess.
What a deal.
A bargain. We made it, so we flew from England to Turkey, and then the Ukraine airport was the wildest place I've ever been. It was absolutely nuts, but just, and I think all people should travel too, because just being so young and like, I don't know, having that world perspective was just the gift of my life,
It really is. It teaches you so much. I always feel like it's the best gift that you can give yourself because it's true transformation. You're experiencing all these different cultures. You're thrown out of your comfort zone completely. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out how to handle certain situations. There's times where you get sick, right? There's times where I felt like I was dying when I was in India with weird food poisoning. In retrospect, when I think about those things, I'm like, wow, I'm grateful for those experiences. Like I was locked down when the pandemic first hit in India, and I'm like, well, this is where I'm going to be. This is where the universe wants me to be for now. And I'm just going to do the best that I can with what I have. And I feel like we can apply that to all aspects of our life, right? Like just being here in Hollywood during these times, there's a writer strike going on. There's a war going on. There's just so much happening. But like, how can we as creatives still create in the midst of all this and try to be happy?
The $1 million question,
exactly.
Right? But that's why I love you and your perspective so much. And I think also that's why we collectively we need each other so much, because one of the theories that I have is, a lifelong mentally ill person is it's the aloneness, because when I feel my worst, it's when I've locked myself away from everyone, and I don't think I'm alone in this. And just the second I get out and start, interacting with my beautiful brothers and sisters, I'm like, oh, so this is what it's about. It's not so bad, is it? And just, I think it's loving ourselves even in the crunchy parts too, and in the non-productive parts. Because one of the biggest things that I've noticed I've done, and that's acceptable in our country, specifically in Los Angeles, is the overworking, and the, what are you doing next? What are you doing next?
Yeah.
And I was so good at that, Jess. I mean, I was like, the wonder kid, the golden child. I had I just produced so much, but it's these, it's the breath in between that I think a lot of us don't take.
Absolutely.
Right?
So what do you do when you feel very down and depressed? What do you do?
What a great question. Once again, the thing that's kept me going long enough, and it's the one thing that I don't, and ironically, I'll make myself laugh accidentally. And I had the most wonderful, it's just like, that's what keeps me going. Like, I'll be really bummed. And then this beautiful mind will just think of something so absurd. And I'm like, great, to live another day.
Yeah.
Because, and it just every time, like, something like my mind will just astound me. And I had the most amazing screenwriting teacher at the University of New Mexico. Shout out Matt McDuffie. And he had the best line. And I think about this every week, and I quote it as much as possible. But he's always like, I went, trigger warning, I would never kill myself because I just couldn't stand the euphoria. And I think of that, and it makes me laugh. I mean, it's the dark, as what our yoga teacher has nicknamed me, Dark Joy, as the comedians. There's always a bit. But on a practical level, and when I can remember, for me, it really has been our yoga practice at the cemetery and the community along with it, because I've never been, like, especially yoga in Los Angeles, there's so much, it's like Lululemon, and I went once to, like a yoga class at Equinox, and it was like a competition. Ooh, and it was very stressful, and it's the people that we met and practicing in the sun, but going on a walk, like, that is, just everything, and trying to focus on eating right, and just
avoiding sugars.
Yes, that and just eating in general, because when I get really like down, just the act of eating, and for the past couple of years it's been weed, but the medicine is no longer, it's becoming the cause now. So because especially during the pandemic, like you said, I believe a lot of people also were very stoned throughout, and that's been my antidepressant. And then I have a wonderful therapist now, so I think too, if it's always good to have someone objective and trained to help guide the madness.
Absolutely. And it's also, I feel like, I don't know, it's sometimes difficult to like push yourself to actually go to yoga.
Yes.
Like, but then once you do it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I came today.
Mm-hmm. Even this morning, I was like, I'm going to go to yoga before Jess's podcast, and then I didn't do it. And it's so early for us LA people. It's at 9 a.m.
Exactly. It used to be at 8, I would go.
Oh, wow. See,
Can you believe that? That was dedication.
That is dedication. That is.
For those that are watching that may not know about our yoga community, it's Monday through Saturday.
Oh, I got this. Yoga at Hollywood Forever every day of the week at 9 a.m. and 10:30s for the late sleepers on Saturday. And it's incredible. And mostly on the Fairbanks lawn. You're not practicing on any graves. Everyone's always like,
When I mention it to people, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's actually a very peaceful experience,
and it's donation based too, because I've been blessed enough and by in the community. If I wasn't, I would not have been able to. I mean, I might be fabulous dressed, the whole thing's been one of the hardest year financially, and there's space for you, so there's like literally no excuses. As long as you go in with a kind heart and an open mind, you are part of the family. There's enough space on the grass for you. And
Absolutely.
When have you gone to a practice like that? It's.
And there's no pretentiousness, which I like. You come as you are. Like, there's just no judgment, and people are in their zone. And there's wonderful gong bats that I just feel like I just died and went to heaven. That's how amazing it feels sometimes, where I'm like, I just like want to lay here forever. Just so blissful. Everything just looks so more vibrant after. It really is just a good refresh to start your days, especially in this current climate. We have to do things that we have to push ourselves to do these things, and take on healthy habits, eating well, getting out in the sun, and grounding, all these things, taking our vitamins.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, and it's almost a controversial statement, but I promise it's a lived experience for me. But what I'm discovering as someone living with this natural, I guess, predilection to this this real thing, and mental illness is very real, but also, and this is, it's a statement, don't take it out of it, happiness can be a choice too, because it's like you said, these because if I stay in one of the biggest, I hide in my bed, right? And I know so many people do, but literally the first choice of like, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush my teeth, game changer. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to yoga. And even sometimes it's the kindness when it's a day that's not your best or whatever. Some days I only make it for my walk at 8 p.m., and dark joy strikes again only in the moonlight. But these little victories, and just realizing like these shadow aspects of ourselves, a lot of us have been dealing with it since childhood, and just kindness. Because a lot of people say you can't love other people until you love yourself. That is not the case for me. I was raised by a wonderful Pisces nurse who is the most incredible woman I know, but she didn't love herself, and in her relationships, and kids pick up on everything. Until recently, my mom's a badass and like the coolest 70-year-old running millions of miles now, and it's amazing to have a mother who we've both grown together, and she was like the astro mom, the spiritual, before it was cool, you know.
Wow.
But like yeah, just I always loved everyone else, and I gave so much, and not in an inauthentic way, but it's ironic too, because I was, especially as a barista, I do this, my cup was so empty, and I would just pour and pour into other people, and that entertainer too, you know, just to make people laugh and to change the room. And I think you have a powerful presence like this too, but when you have that, like, it's a gift and a curse, right? To be able to go in, because sometimes I notice when I'm down, a room has a different vibe, but when I'm on, oh boy, is that fun,
yeah.
you know? I used to be very manic too before I had this last therapist, and I will say, even though those manic highs were, chef's kiss, so delicious, like the even keel, I'm a bigger fan, double chef's kiss, you know?
Yeah. You recently did a show at the Hollywood Forever, which I came out to support you. I was so proud of you. I give you props for just being able to go up there and not really knowing what to say and like if people are going to laugh. How do you do that?
Well, thank you for being at the show, and that's, it's such a, I think that was like, we just met, and it's like, welcome to my mind. It's crazy, Jess. If I could do anything else, I would, and it's something I never expected. My whole life was dedicated to cinema, like I said, for my father, and I had never, as crazy as this sounds, I never really watched comedy until I came to Los Angeles, and this was such a beautiful, I know you've had an acting teacher on the pod, but like, I went to an acting school, and the best compliment of my life is when I was sharing on stage, and the acting teacher was like, you need to be a comedian, and I was like, well, damn, that's high praise, but it's a lack of boundaries. And for me, it's just, it truly is a gift and a curse, because I can talk to anyone and tell them my deepest, darkest secrets, and just weave and entertain and laugh. And I bombed for like, I think the first year that I went. And when the pandemic happened, I started in 2019. I was so excited, Jess. I was like, wow, I never have to do comedy again. The world is over. And then life changed, and it's trust in the universe. And I pray before I go on to, you know, the career where I'm like, let me say what I need to say and what needs to be heard, and humbly. And I don't even know if I'm a comedian, because I watch how others do it and how I do. I don't have a set though, because I change so much, and you know, it's like a lot of comedians, they work on their material. Of course I practice diligently and with as humbly as one can, trying to do something so wildly unhumble, but I just give you guys my heart and my soul, and I used to profoundly hate myself, and now I have like this rowdy confidence that I don't even know how I'm going to share as to how I got there, because I know it could be helpful to people, but I guess I just trust that, you know.
What do you mean you profoundly hated yourself?
Well, because I had this, as I've kind of touched on, my father was very abusive and manipulative and emotionally, like, very unsafe as a child, and did certain things that, like, how much time do you have? But like, you know, just really abused me in a way that forever altered my mind. And no matter how much work I've done, those are my shadows, where I'm constantly like, you know, it's an interesting thing being a spiritual person on the planet, right? Because I think sometimes we've had to go through harsher things in order to create that. It's like becoming a diamond, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's like we're formed in pressure and bullshit sometimes, and abuse and trauma. But I think it's that, I can't remember what your question was, but it was the, I call it a sexy reframe sometimes, because I used to be such a victim and had that victim mentality, and I kind of got off on it a little bit. I'm like, world, don't you know, especially when I was in Albuquerque as an angry teen. I know we're both so tall too, and I was like, Jess, I should sit. Yeah, I'll just sit in your lap, you know. But going to truly honor, from victim to, you know, it's that shift from this happened to me to this happened for me, and that's not easy, and it sucks, and it takes a lot of. But it was a sound bath, actually, that they said, you know that your father did the best he could. I cried, and I've never forgot that. And even though the best my father could do was child abuse, it was the best he could do, and knowing his history and doesn't make it okay. But you know, I couldn't live And my mom said something recently too. I mean, my mom and my therapist have just been like, this is why I am a comedian, because they've been some harsh feedback. My dad left when I was a little girl, and I found out in the school newspaper change of address section, so I've always had to have a good sense of humor. It's probably that reaction, but in hindsight, it's funny. Some kid was like, Joy, your dad moved to Alaska, and I was like, what? And then I looked and I was like, well, that's news to me. But my mom had said, like, how often does your dad think of you? And I was like, oh, and I flew the heart, Jesus, Mom. And then I was like, and she meant it in love. And I was like, you are accurate. I was some tough, but I was like, because I've had, different people that have wronged me and things, and I ran into one. I was somebody's barista who did a very not so good thing, and they didn't even remember me because they had an alcohol problem, and then he actually did come back and apologize. But it was one of the most interesting moments of my life, seeing this guy as a barista. And I remember the first time I saw him at the coffee shop, I'd put on the mask, I'd hidden away, and I was like, I have a choice here. I can carry this stone of anger and resentment towards this person who doesn't even remember me, or I could just take his apology, and it is a pure apology in this moment, and I could fucking forgive him for both of us. I have a lot of chills when I said that. Means I'm growing, and I have a lot of pettiness. I think a lot of us do, but to choose to forgive for ourselves, it's classic cliche spiritualism, but boy, does it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely, they don't call it a practice for nothing, right? I mean, it is a practice. You can go to yoga, you can do all the yoga classes you want, but the real work is when you're off the mat and certain situations that you're in, how you're going to react. If you're just like going to pop off, then that's not very spiritual of you.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, and it's and watching the only thing we have control over is our reactions. And as we've joked, like, I am a Leo, but I also have a Cancer moon, which is a terrible combination, because I am the most sensitive, but especially in my younger youth. Oh my God, I could be so reactive, Jess, and just the tantrums that do you ever look back at shit you used to do in your younger times, and you're like, sorry, everybody, for the drama, totally. But I'm not changing.
Totally.
Yeah, and
so what about dating? Are you dating? Because dating in LA is crazy.
It's a tricky, that is my most unhealed area, if I am being totally honest, but I'm actually very proud of the progress that I've been able to make over my life. And this is so one of my first comedy sets was actually before I moved to Los Angeles. It was 2016, and I had gone to a therapist because I was afraid of men, because my dad, he crossed that line with me as well, like some really not so okay stuff. So it was a very righteous thing to go to therapy. And I had she would get high during our sessions. This was not a great therapist, and it was a mess. I know.
What kind of therapist is that?
Terrible. Would not recommend, 0 stars on Yelp. But not only that, but she didn't even understand too, like, the fear of it. And it's so funny too, because this was 2016, pre the height of Me Too, because I did this joke and I worked it out on stage, and just watching the reaction from the audience, and and that's what I love about being a comedian, because I also don't really know when I'm being funny sometimes, and like, it's a bizarre thing to be, and it sounds so douchey, and like, but like, I'm really fucking funny, and like in a way that I don't even know sometimes when it's happening, and it's a gift. Once again, believe me, if I could do math, I would trade it in. Just kidding, I would never. Fuck, now I forgot where we were going with that. This is how I am on stage too. I like start something and I'm like, put it down. I hope I can curse on the pod. It's too late. Foul-mouthed comedian. I forgot where I was, but dating. I think I purposefully. Oh yeah. So it was really, I was terrified, truly terrified. I never dated as a teen. I would be physically like repulsed by, and I believe it was almost like an authentic asexuality at the time, because I know it's a spectrum, and just the trauma had shut me down, and I survived the crappy therapist, and it was funny to realize, like, oh, we're all terrified of men. And just recently I did date my Insta crush, and it went very poorly, and he came to the show actually, and that was actually pretty traumatizing.
Wow.
Because that's the craziest part about being a comedian and being a woman on stage. Not only do I have to look more beautiful than the men, I have to perform 3 times as hard. I headlined Hollywood Forever while running the entire show before, and then my ex, and not only did that, but since we'll pan out, he brought 2 women with him, because he brings a harem with him everywhere he can, and tried to get me to be in the harem, and I had a joke like, honey, I'm not the leader. If I'm not the leader of the cult, I'm not going. But I found in the and I'm going to use you as a prop right now. He had each woman. I have to keep it, but they were each using him as a footstool, and I found that in the event photos. And then
What?
Thank you. I know. Just like, and so, but like, so that was the kind of energy. And I made sure to like not look at him, and like, I knew, and he was doing all sorts of weird, I mean, he does sex kung fu, like the red flags were there. He was on Netflix, Sexy Beast. Like,
okay. He's out there.
He's out there.
What was his sign?
Oh, Capricorn and Leo. No wonder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Earth and fire.
Well, two people vying for dominance. And I have trouble too, especially as with the artsy guys, like, it's I would love to I would love to love on some, but I have this, I'm probably a little bit not a competitive person, but I can't slow down for people, especially for men, you know. And I've had two, you know, I'm under 30. I've had 2 shows at Hollywood Forever. By the way, I have $0, you know, so we're not bragging here. It's this the gift, you know. And finished my first feature, and it's the most beautiful piece of work I've ever made. But a lot of, especially men in this town, have a lot of big talk, but not a lot of the action. And so, you know, a lot of these guys that I'm knowing, it's like they try to act like we're on the same level, and it's like, honey, like maybe you've released it on YouTube, but you didn't shoot with an anamorphic lens, and you know, like, come on, baby.
Exactly.
Like, so it's a mess, Jess. My dating life is a mess, but I'm hopeful that it's always gotten better. So
sure.
And I got ghosted by Mr. Wolfe from the show.
Did you?
I did. I proposed to a man with a cock ring, and I got divorced.
The nerve.
The nerve. I think I'm the hot girl villain of all of these stories, and I'm not sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dating is just, I don't know, I just feel like just with the current timeline, it's just like, I don't know if it's the time to do it. Yeah.
I kind of don't know if I want to put the effort into dating anymore.
Yeah.
I think if like I meet someone who's wonderful and it naturally or organically and it vibes, then that's a different story. But like, I don't know, I'm finding like this last season of these two guys kind of parallel next to each other. I had like the alpha male and then the submissive like right next to each other this summer. Like and the crazy thing is, and even in this convo and on stage and in the art, like I'm spending a lot of time talking about these guys that aren't even here anymore, and that's something within myself I'm looking forward to not doing, because like I don't know, I'd rather, like, I feel like we're going on a trip one day soon, like I'd rather focus on like my friendships, our dreams, these podcasts, like, you know, nurturing ourselves, because I think then we'll attract the better quality as a byproduct. And like I don't want to need someone anymore, because I desperately want them, but want equals lack on a spiritual level. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Someone can just walk into your life tomorrow and just totally change your life. And it's happened to people, you know. I'm not really the lovey-dovey type of person, I'll be honest with you. But I do like to share experiences with people that in a romantic way, like travel. There's just, you know, I'm a solo traveler, but there are times where I'm like, wow, I wish I was sharing this beautiful sunset with somebody. Look where I'm at. And you're by yourself. But all those moments just make you just stronger and see things in a different way. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the guys that have wanted to date me, I just wasn't interested. Just had no connection. And travel's big for me. I need to date someone that has been to at least 15, 20 countries, you know? It changes the mind. There's just something that it does. What am I going to talk to you about? You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear your travel stories and how they shaped you and things like that. And where are we going to go?
Yes.
Like, I'm the type of person, like, you know, let's just go to Egypt. Let's go have some Arabic coffee and climb to the top of the pyramids. You know, that's my idea of having fun. Like, what do you do for fun? Oh, let's go to Egypt and climb the pyramids.
So should we go right now? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm serious, actually. Even like with friends, you know, but I do nurture my friendships. I feel like that's more important than anything, you know, just things that me and you have done. We've gone to the beach, we've gone to the waterfalls, we've had nice meals and laughter together. That's so important. It is. That's so important. Instead of focusing your energy on trying to find the one. The one what? find God.
Hey,
Hello, find God. Stop searching for some dream man. Find God.
Oof. I just got full body chills. So she's dropping the mic.
I'm just gonna drop it. Can I just?
Yeah. It's rented. It's rented.
Yeah. It's like running all around on all these dating apps. Go to yoga class. How about that? Get on that mat. Get off those dating apps and get on the mat. Does that rhyme?
I love that. Like the comedian and the poet over here.
Yeah,
this is
right?
The vibe.
Fire and fire.
Yeah. So why we're so drawn. Literally, couldn't have said all of that better. And I think also we have to remember too, like my mom loves to remind me that like she could not have a credit card on her own until 1975.
Wow.
We are part of the first generation of women truly to get to do whatever we want.
Absolutely.
And it's powerful that you go to all these wild places by yourself, and people are always probably saying like, should you be going there? Should you be doing this?
All the time. I mean, apparently I'm supposed to have been dead by now because everywhere I went, people have said things like, you're going to go to India, you're going to get raped. You're going to go to Egypt, they're going to kill you. I'm like, why would they do that? Like,
and aren't you,
the perceptions of certain countries by entitled Americans sickens me. They think they know everything about the world and every culture. It's just astounding.
And like what's so sad is that, I mean, yes, there's problems everywhere, but like we are more likely to be gunned down here.
Oh,
like
yeah, absolutely.
No self-reflection of our like, and I think we have this, and that's what I realized being 20 years old when I was traveling abroad and all of these, and it's like I think one of my greater gifts is like knowing my shadows or whatever, because I was kind of blown away by my own entitlement, because I was acting and I didn't know until, because you don't know until you go, and like none of us are perfect, but I was like, whoa, like I'm acting like this is my country and like that I own, and just like how loud, and I love to, like I am a loud person, and so that, but just, it was interesting, like wow, like I am really taking up a lot of space, love that, but just in some ways, but you know what I mean, just it kind of, and that's why I think everybody does have to travel, so you can see that kind of, because like we are raised with American exceptionalism, which is not good and not healthy. And if you never leave, you can't see that, because that's part of growth, is by looking at your own shadows and the crusty stuff within ourselves and going, I'm not loving, I am going to send that love, but I'm not letting that piece of me take the wheel anymore,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone should travel, and people will tell me like, I don't have the money, and I get that. But if there's a will, there's a way. Mm-hmm. I know people that there's these work away from home, or where you can work on a farm, volunteer on a farm, or volunteer your time, like doing web design for certain hotels, and you can stay there for free. And people aren't aware of these programs that are out there. You can live in Hawaii for like 3 months and just volunteer a few hours on the farm, and you have free food and accommodation. So there are many ways to travel. If you really want to, you can. If you don't want to leave the country, you can just go to a waterfall in LA, 30 minutes away. Mm-hmm. There's so many ways to travel and just shift your consciousness in many ways.
And it's also an interesting thing, too, because I don't know how, this is actually a question for you, because you are such a traveler, but there's that amazing quote, wherever you go, there you are, you know? And so it's like, I'm sure you felt like whatever your innate, like, shit and dark stuff is, like, you feel on that in Egypt, in this, and, like,
absolutely,
it's that balance, but I don't know, like, I am such a sucker, and I wouldn't say for novelty, but I find that, like, it's that adventure, like, I can't imagine it, like, and even how you say, like, LA is an adventure, and remembering, like, when I'm in my, like, thick, nasty, like, not feeling good, business in my brain, just to, like, go out, like you said, see a waterfall, like, connect in some way with, just anything outside of myself that's beautiful, and for anybody listening, like, this is the year my unemployment just ran out. I was a barista, I worked at a rave, a candle maker owes me a bunch of money, and I still went to Austin, San Francisco, San Diego, waterfall, this is all made up too, and I think we need to take it less seriously.
It's all an illusion. None of this is real.
Yeah.
This is an illusion. Just have fun.
Yeah.
Be nice to people and be kind to yourself. That's just, it's very simple when you look at it. hope you don't leave LA, because I know we had talked and you were telling me that you were considering leaving LA due to financial reasons, and I'm like, damn, I finally met someone that I actually like in LA. Well, I should take that back. I have a lot of great friends in LA, but very few, right? People that you can trust and just go and be yourself with. And I'm like, I finally met someone that I can just be myself with and have fun. And she's like leaving LA. So what's up with that? Are you going to leave? Are you going to stay?
Well, firstly, I felt the same about you. I was like, I finally made like a friend. And it's the same thing, because it's like I'm surrounded by wonderful people, but it's a kind of weird when you grow up, right? And like as an adult, like you meet a lot of great people, but people that can actually really like, you know, fuck with your energy for a long time, and like I don't know, I always feel like more energized, or we're always having fun, and like I am blessedly a lot, and sometimes my feedback is like, Joy, I love you, but I couldn't be with you all the time, you know, and I'm like, well, ouch.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, but all right, duly noted. So yeah, I really do love that about like our energy. But just recently, and it's funny too, because I may be staying, there may be a celebrity shot, and ironically, literally right up the street from here, which is right, we'll keep the street a mystery. But yes, one of the yoga teachers might be coming in with an interesting offer. Wow. That I could be staying at a part of the property, which I think that happened because like, so where I'm at right now, and it's really interesting because I love being, you know, a fabulous guest on my fabulous friends podcast. Like we're in this beautiful space creating something, and you know, and it's that juxtaposition of like, yeah, this year, this is such a vulnerable share, and I don't even think I've said it in my own work, and I don't know how I've honestly survived. Like, so my rent is like 1,500-ish, then plus lifestyle. I've, as of right now, and not people that owe me money, like about $14,000 this year is what I've made. How am I here, Jessica?
Yeah.
That's literally a deficit, and thankfully I borrowed a little money from my mom for this month's rent, and so I had to make a choice because that's not in my integrity. My mom's a school nurse in Albuquerque. Like, you know, she doesn't have the beaucoup bucks to like fund my lifestyle. Sure. You know, bless, you know, I always joke like Nepo baby of Hollywood forever, but only because my yoga teachers love me. But I think it was that like being willing, like today I'm putting in my notice, and truly like Albuquerque, that's where my mom lives and where I spent my teenage years. I didn't love it, and there's a lot that's beautiful about it. That's just my angsty teen, and it is a different, it's not Los Angeles as well, you know, it's a different lifestyle there. It's just not, I love my mom, and I would be so blessed to go and stay in her guest room, you know, and not everybody has that, so I'm just like, and it was just the best option that I had. But being willing to surrender and to go do something, and being willing to change, I think is what, because this is literally, I'm still in talks. I don't know if this LA backup plan is going to happen, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's the universe. And it was ironic because my yoga teacher had said, like, just manifest joy. And I was like, yes, and like, you know, because you know, when you're in the middle of like deep stuff and somebody's just like manifest in LA, you're just like, I wish I was in Taekwondo instead of yoga class, you know, like but yeah, so it was just, I think by being willing to surrender, the universe is like, maybe not, because I just like, I can't imagine not just going to the cemetery, not seeing my people, not like you know, and I was willing to make the absolute best of a situation that I didn't want to do, but you know, like, what is life? Is life about once that maybe if, like, going back to staying in a guest room that I don't want to go to, blessed to do it, but I'm open to a miracle that might be happening. So maybe it'll be a different answer by the time the show airs, but that's kind of exciting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've told you before, sometimes resets are necessary. I had to leave LA for a while several years ago. I gave up my apartment in West Hollywood. Just so many crazy things were happening there. This girl's boyfriend wound up hanging himself, and I heard her screams in the hallway and went out and experienced all that, called the police. And I'm like, this is the last straw. I mean, there's people that drowned in the jacuzzi. I pulled someone out of the jacuzzi once. I'm usually a skeptic with like panoramal things, but there was just a lot of weird things that were happening. My lights, and I would take a shower and the lights would be on in the living room. I would come out, they'd be off. Very strange things. Other people that lived there had other stories, sightings and stuff. But when that happened, I'm like, I'm out of here. I went down the next day, gave my 30-day notice, had no idea where I was going to go, but I just knew that it was also like a time that was sort of just like pushing me, where I just needed to experience something else. LA was getting to be too much, especially being an artist and going to auditions and having so many no's, you know. I'm like, I just like, this is happening for the best. So that reset was good. I left. I was spending some time between Chicago, where I'm from, and the East Coast. But I love the West Coast. I love the sunshine. I love the weather. And I'm like, you know, I want to like go back to LA. And that reset was good. It's what I needed. It shifted a lot of things into perspective. And when I came back, I just had a new apartment, had fresh new ideas. And I'm like, I really like want to just be with no expectations. I just want to live out my dreams, and we're doing it. Yeah. So don't feel like you're a failure in any way if you have to like go back, because I felt like that. But just go recharge, maybe go to Peru and do some ayahuasca. Yes. And come back.
I've been working on my Duolingo Spanish in preparation for the ayahuasca trip. And I love what you said too. And you've also been like a nice, like you in our friendship off camera too, of, you know, express that a lot, and it's that reset, refresh. And so I don't know, I think I'm surrendering and just trusting the universe. And maybe it's a little like, you know, having a little space that I can come here and there. Maybe it's both, you know, and I'll find out. But it's really wonderful to like, just be open to change, especially, you know, in such a rowdy city. I feel like a lot of people actually aren't, you know, and even in my apartment building, which kind of looks like a, you know, a zesty motel, a lot of people have been there for like 16 years and then in a studio, you know, in a room smaller than the room we're recording in, you know, because they have a deal or got, you know, the rent control or whatever. But it's like, you know, and one guy, I think he's almost been there for 25 years, and it's been 4 years this month, and I'm like, I'm absolutely losing my mind. It's like being in, you know, it's like, you
got to shake things up every now and then.
If you can believe it, I have no Sag in my chart, but boy, do I live like one.
I know, seriously. I'm like, how do you not have any Sag?
I know. It's crazy. I think that's why I'm so drawn to you guys. Like, my therapist is Sag, all my favorite friends, some of my favorite lovers. Like, it's just, it's a beautiful. I think I'd be too wild if I had. There'd be like no point. I'd just be just the next level of like, you know, it'd be like the universe was like, we gotta add some earth and some water. Gotta cool this bitch off a little bit.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just really grateful to have you in my life. The universe works in mysterious ways and just connects everyone. I mean, how many billions of people are on this planet? And I just happened to meet you that one day in yoga, and our friendship flourished, and it keeps flourishing. And I'm just really grateful to just be so relatable with you, because we're both artists and we're both doing our best. We're actually doing it. I mean, look, you have your own podcast show as well, which was very inspiring for me at the time when I talked to you. And you were sort of like, well, I only have like so many listeners. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's amazing to just say yes and to do it. So thank you.
Thank you. I received that. I'm just so grateful for you too. And like, it's wonderful. I think that's also the part of being an artist and I think we're a part of the global consciousness awakening shift, but in general too, like women in like the 90s and the aughts, like when we were coming up, like, you know, we were always trained to be competitors instead of like, and I love cooperation instead of collaboration and cooperation instead of competition, because I love that, like, I did see, like, you started your pod and like, I don't even have the money for a microphone, but I did my 17th episode yesterday, you know, and like that, I learned so much, and and my guest yesterday, she did the same thing. She's like, oh, I'm going to start mine now. And I'm like, good, because the way you do this is so different from the way I do it. I know the way she does it. And like, you know, we get to change how art is made. And you mentioned the strikes and things. And like, I think we could go even further and like, you know, how are we changing how we want to create? Because like, I gotta be honest, Jess, do I really want to force people to work 12, 14 hours for shitty pay on a film set? Absolutely not. If I ever get that power, if that, you know, golden ticket is ever handed to me, we get to choose how to do things differently. If I ever hear somebody talking down to somebody who works beneath them, you're gone, you're fired, you're just not, you're not in alignment. We get to choose happiness. Hey, call back.
Hello.
Maybe I am a real performer. but like, and to be good to ourselves and others, and it's beautiful to see, like, you know, because it's to be inspired by one another, because that's after being, you know, friends with you for a bit, I'm like, damn, I gotta focus on my travel again, you know, and like that's the best kind of friend and relationship, is like, wow, you inspired me to be like the best version of myself.
Thank you. And this reset for you that's coming up may have some travel involved. You know, maybe you'll go to Peru, maybe you'll go to India, and you'll just really, it's interesting how travel just opens up so many different dimensions of your soul.
Yeah.
Where you're like, wow, what is that?
Absolutely.
So you just never know where life will lead you. It's just a beautiful mystery.
Yeah. And being willing to, like, I think, separate from attachment to certain identities as well. As I'm kind of in my Saturn return, so I'm a little extra esoteric, you know, but for me personally, being a filmmaker, being a comedian, being an artist, being a screenwriter, like, because of how I grew up, you know, and I wanted my own star, and people were always like, would you want a star of the wall? I'm like, that doesn't, it's so crazy, because that's, if, you know, an old teenage story, all I wanted was certain things, and like, I used to watch like the Oscars go up, and, you know, when it was still the Kodak Theater, like, you know, in yesteryear, but like, none of that stuff matters. And for me, realizing and living in Los Angeles, I had so many of my dreams come true, and I'm very fascinated by the concept of dreams, because if you're pursuing your dreams but your life feels like a nightmare, what you doing?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I'm sure you've been around some celebs and stuff, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Yep.
Where I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here.
And it's wild to have some of the, I had a very strange, I can't talk too much about it. I signed an NDA, but I had a very strange job, and was basically kind of living in Beechwood Canyon, helping a rich entrepreneur with stuff. And it's so wild too, because I'd always wanted to live in the Hollywood Hills, but that being there, and my experience of that should have been more specific. I wanted my house in the Hollywood Hills, just kidding. But like, you know, it was so weird to be there in the place where I thought everything would just be for me. And I'd never kind of been more miserable than there I was in the Hollywood Hills. Oh, there's that guy from Gossip Girl walking his dog by me. Wow. Oh, he doesn't give a shit about me, you know, just like, and just all these strange things. And the first time I did a show at Hollywood Forever, well, and part of that too, and why it's such an intense, my childhood shit literally happened 1,800 steps away from that stage, and so I kind of had a nervous breakdown after, because I was great, I was really funny, but running the show and doing all this stuff, but not having like the mental, just working really hard, but not having the grace for myself. And it was also a time that I needed to change. And then going back to work at a coffee shop after touching the face of God, that was a hard egoic fall for me. Sure. But, you know, just learning, but then, and then getting to do, we shifted to feel good comedy. And that's kind of, just been a constant reminder. And just, as somebody named Joy, who has struggled with a lot of the saddies, you know, just remembering to choose that happiness for me, and to remind myself, but in a way I think it'll remind others, you know.
All that glitters ain't gold, right?
Hey, and I always say, not all that glitters ain't gold, Bloom, because I did Walk on Fire with Jeff. That's my big claim to fame. So like, what else do I have and the attachment? And so literally, like, too, it's that being all those things, like a filmmaker, actor, and all this. I was like, well, what if I just was Joy, you know? And I think it's like The Alchemist, you know, and as somebody on journeys, like, you know, sometimes the treasure is in your backyard the whole time, you know, and just I wouldn't be the person that I am now, and I love who I've become without like the roadmap of, you know, oh, I want to be a star. But then I don't know, it's like I've never experienced this freedom of like, it's even bigger than, what if my dreams are even wilder than I could comprehend when I was this child suffering so much? Like, I was living my whole life for a really hurt child that I no longer am. And that's been as scary as all get out, to like go like, oh, what if I could change this part of myself that I thought was integral and steadfast, and then realize like, oh, let it go, keep growing.
Absolutely. I also feel like the beauty of being a creator in this day and age is you don't need to go through the Hollywood gatekeepers, right? There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's this, and you will build your own audience, however many that, it could be thousands, it could be millions, however. And you'll find people that actually just like you and like your work. Like, with the podcast, people may just like me. They know me from my travels, and they're like, I want to hear about travel stories. Jessica meets interesting people. So you have that niche. You don't need to go through the Hollywood gatekeepers, which I found like I had to when I first moved here, where it was like going to all these auditions and am I good enough? Am I not good enough? F that. I'm going to do my own thing,
Yeah. No, I
want to do my own thing. I want to have control over it. And I don't want to lose my freedom. I just want to keep traveling and having these unique experiences because time is ticking.
Absolutely. And how bored were you by auditions? I only did like maybe a couple dozen, and I just found like in the same vein you did, I was like, wait, do I want to be putting all this effort for people that don't care? It's just going in the slush, or creating something of my own, and like, in each in our own ways. I love the pieces that I've created, but you literally just by being yourself, having your amazing vibe, like built this like empire of travel. And like, if you had waited for Hollywood to choose you, like, I don't think you would have even found the success that you did, because it was so authentic to your like, hey, I'm Jess and I just go on adventures and show up and have a great vibe and meet cool people. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
Yeah. And there's no space to like, I think that's the boring part about Hollywood too now, as I've gotten here older and seen it, like, it's like it only adapts, and even in some of like the PC and the social ways, like it's only gotten woke as it has to, and like, hey, what is this Waking Up with Jess? We could wake up so much more and just not waiting for permission to be ourselves, because like, let's be real, I don't think we're the typical like Hollywood and all these systems actually want people that are as rowdy and audacious and authentic as we aspire to be,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll build our own house, build our own castles.
Yes. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and supporting a fellow creator. I'm really grateful for you. And are you hungry?
Oh my God, I'm starving. Wait, should we go to Kava?
Oh my God, should we?
Kava, please sponsor Jess.
Right, please. That's actually a good
idea.
Yeah.
Hey, let's manifest it right here, right now.
Free Kava for the rest of our lives.
I know, I could just talk to you for more. We'll do the private pod later. Like,
Totally.
That's what happens when we get together. It's just we can't stop.
Totally.
Can't stop, won't stop.
What would you like to say to fellow creatives that are either watching or listening that may want to move to LA and pursue a career in the arts, but have some fear and worried about money and all these things? What would you like to say to them?
Take a deep breath first, because that's great advice. I would say that our desires and our dreams are not put within us to rot and to torture us. I think it's an amazing thing. I don't regret coming here for 1 second. I would say be kind to yourself. Don't drink too much at the parties. Be very careful with the drugs you take. That's a solid advice from Aunt Joy. And love yourself first and foremost, and be kind to yourself and everyone else. And just not see what comes through you, and do the work and create your practices, but don't be bound to them, and just being open. And because you'll just be surprised by how much you change too. But don't disrespect your own boundaries for the comfort of others too. I came here at 22, so that's a pretty, maybe if you're a little bit older and had a different father, you might have a different piece of advice. But just I don't know, just breathe, and pardon the pun, but follow your joy.
Yeah. Maybe one day you guys will join us in yoga at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Yes, and come to yoga with us. If it's the craziest thing about our yoga practice too is I invite everybody, both in my work, on stage, in pods, and in my life, and so wild how few people actually come. Because Kundalini it draws a specific type at the cemetery.
I've invited so many people. I've only had like one person come.
Yeah. So if you feel truly called, show up, and show up for yourself, and be kind to you when you don't, I guess.
Beautiful advice. Can I have you say in a very exuberant way, I love my life?
I was hoping. I love my life.
Yes.
I love my life. I love my life.
Yes, I love my life too. And I love creating Thank you all for listening to this episode and for your continued support for this Waking Up with Jessica show. I'm extremely grateful. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next episode. We love our lives.
We love our lives.
Thank you so much.
And I love you.
I love you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Let's go eat.